of lethal force against looters.
Welcome to the General Atomics Galleria. You must be our new supervisor.
I think you've mistaken me for someone else.
Oh, I'm sorry. After 428 false positives, I just felt so certain. If you happen to meet that laggard, let him know that he is 210 years late for his scheduled shift. I need him to report to the director's office in the statue for immediate assignment. In the meantime, I'm afraid the Galleria is closed to the general public. But if you have any questions, I'd be happy to assist you.
Who's the director?
General Atomics' patented Director Management System, DMS, is responsible for coordinating the actions of the robots here at the Galleria. The Director allows the Galleria to operate autonomously, without the need for human intervention.
Why is the Galleria closed?
I'm sorry, but due to pending litigation, I am unable to comment. Please direct your inquiries to the General Atomics Legal Affairs Division.
What is this place?
The General Atomics Galleria is the shopping center of tomorrow today. Our wide array of stores are staffed entirely by the General Atomics line of robots, showcasing the reliability and versatility of a robotic workforce. Come in and experience the General Atomics difference.
That's all.
Very well. Have a nice day.
Remember, you are the pride of General Atomics. Be on the lookout for thieves, trespassers, and communists! All right, maggot. Step forward. Slowly. Hold it right there. I've been monitoring your approach. Impressive. Very impressive. For a low-life criminal!
I'm reporting in, as ordered.
Reporting in? Wait, the grand reopening? Are you Grand Reopening Supervisor 18 Alpha? You're late.
Something like that.
Manual authorization of the grand reopening requires authentication, so I'm going to need to see your ID. Sir.
Wait, manual activation? Is there any other kind?
Automatic activation was scheduled for January 1st, 2078. Wait. Analyzing. Corrupt task detected. Task scheduler repaired. Now executing previously scheduled task. Accessing protocols. All units, stand by for the grand reopening. Processing firmware updates. Done. Reinstating combat inhibitors. Done. Designating new facility supervisor. Done. The General Atomics Galleria is now open for business! As the grand reopening supervisor, you will be conducting tonight's customer appreciation raffle. Here is the grand prize. That'll be all, soldier. Dismissed! All right, maggots, listen up! I want your stores cleaned yesterday! Move it! Move it!
the kitchen. Health regulations, you know.
That moved other things? What was the difference? Why has this strange pattern, which we call environment, and which we accredit with having accomplished the miracles that we know, failed to accomplish any miracles with them? Were they laggards? Were they sluggards? Did they refuse their amoebic lessons as we are now refusing our more cultivated problems? We do not know. But we are inclined to suspect that in this process of ensouling, this constant entering into manifestation of orders of life, that perhaps there were exceedingly rudimentary orders that had to come in and could go no further than that and had to wait there, perhaps fulfilling their growth in that process, whereas locked in others, perhaps in man, but perhaps not in all men, there may again be a potential that will strike out in some direction or another in the next million years. We do not know. But we have reason to suspect that this differentiation is due not to the laggard or the sluggard, but is simply due to things fulfilling their patterns. And having fulfilled their patterns, they must wait until nature devises and produces the next pattern for them, the next step in their growth. And that their growth is eternal. But within any environment, it is controlled by law. And that there is a lawful growth for all things, and therefore a lawful reason for man and the surviving amoeba. These things have to be within a lawful pattern of some kind. Now, in the actual emergencies and exigencies of planetary development, we have reason to assume, again, from the most ancient legends and records that we have, and also from the process of the fecundated cell in its development of a life organism, we observe what is always noticeable as the appearance of cellular multiplication at the poles. That in the development of form within the fecundated ovum, the first obvious manifestation of fecundity is the appearance at the north pole of the cell of a peculiar crossed line of cleavage, forming at the pole of the cell, first of all, the form of a perfect cross. This is true of man, it is true apparently of the universe. And we are reminded of the words of Plato, that at the beginning of creation, the Logos impresses itself upon the universe in the form of a cross. In other words, even under the microscope today, when we watch the little cell developing, the first noticeable change of the completely monocellular structure is the appearance of the cross at the North Pole. From this, immediately further differentiation continues until the cell develops a group of smaller internal cellular structures forming polar caps. And gradually this spreads, giving somewhat the appearance of a dumbbell, until finally it forms a complete sphere. The two polar areas extending downward from above and upward from below like this until they meet.
Now, in your ancient study of universal cosmogony, your Hindus followed this concept almost exactly. And the Greeks, apparently, probably from contact with Asia, did at an early time arrive at a remarkably similar conclusion. And that is that in the cooling or crystallizing of the body of the Earth, due to the slower motions at the poles, less friction against atmosphere, that your crystallization areas first appeared at the poles to form what they referred to in India as the crowns of the Earth Mother, magnificent helmet or diadem, which appeared to crown the great Earth Parent. These crowns which we now regard as polar areas, are now to us only known as ice fields. But we must realize that although a submarine has gone under this area to prove that there is no actual land there, we must realize that the submarine is going under the magnetic pole, not the true pole. That at a long period of time ago, what Camille Flammarion, the great French astronomer, referred to as the 13 motions of the Earth, that the Earth has many motions, and one of these motions is the gradual separation of the true pole and the magnetic pole due to a third Earth motion, and that this means that only in so many billions of years will these two poles recoincide. Consequently, the area which was originally the polar cap is now in the Gobi Desert of Mongolia. And what we call now the pole is the magnetic pole, which we discover only by means of the magnetic needle. Thus, do not mistake the idea that the original polar area was not a land area. It was. And among all ancient people, Asiatic and otherwise, this mysterious land area, which is now known as the Desert of Chameau, or Gobi, and where Roy Chapman Andrews so sincerely believed he was going to find the first vestiges of life upon the planet, that this area was originally the polar continent, and that all other things being equal, the manifestation of life, not the creation of it, but the manifestation of life, would first begin in those areas where it could be first sustained, where you still had tremendous volcanic flux, where you had a hopelessly insecure area, still tremendously influenced by the tremendous contact of fire and vapor, until you had what was called to the ancients this mystery of the fire mist, covering the entire earth, that the combustion and the atmosphere formed a most non-congenial atmosphere for the development of anything. Therefore, it is where this began to clear, where form and structure began to emerge. The tree spores striking the planet could have found survival. Otherwise, they could not have survived. Those that struck in other areas, if they did not survive. But all that was necessary in connection with this problem was that a few should survive, as in the case of the human sperm, of which only one actually breaks through to fecundate the cell. This situation means that according to the ancient beliefs, that life as we know it began on the Polarian continents, as they were anciently called. That is, continents composed of the polar caps. And that of these, the North Polar Cap was the one most favored, and first supplying the magnetic field, for it was here that the Earth was directly connected with the Sun. So the ancients held it to be a truth, that life appearing on the Earth first appeared in the Polarian zone, or what one would have called originally the geographical pole of the Earth, North Pole, and began to function in a completely isolated area, surrounded by chaos, surrounded by a condition that required millions of years of further development to make habitable by life as we know it. That other lives, according to legend, could have existed in the fire mist, we also are told, but that these lives in turn departed and did not return, that after the fire mist cleared they could no longer endure, and went on to other atmospheres or environments or dimensions of time and space, which we may sometime also explore. But the Polarian development resulted in the gradual creeping southward of habitable land area, perhaps in the beginning extending itself almost like fingers down into the combustion. Little by little, the combustion area moved southward, or rather perhaps was overcast by solid surface moving southward, until the fires of Vulcan were encased and enclosed, and only the great volcanic vents of ancient legend remained. Thus this area, which was not snowbound then, or anything of that nature, represented an ancient zone of life. How long it was before this area was snowbound, we do not know. But assuming the approximate zone which would now correspond with the band of the Gobi Desert and other areas, but which may now be frigid. We know, for example, that when the Yukon breaks up in the spring and vast amounts of ice come down the Yukon, and also breaking off of ancient glaciers and so forth, slip down into the sea at various points. For all your living glaciers move, and the ones which do not move are referred to as dead. But moving or living glaciers are forever breaking off and causing icebergs and other similar structure. But frequently, these great glacial masses are filled with frozen tropical vegetation. The types of vegetation that you would normally expect in a climate more like Hawaii or Tahiti than anything we have in those areas. Some years ago in mining in the northern part of Alaska, about as far north, not the farthest north, but as far north as Fairbanks, or even a little further north, miners drilling found red dirt coming up out of the pits. After this red dirt had had a little opportunity in the outside air, it was proved to not be dirt at all, but that as it melted, that it was the flesh of an animal, frozen solid. So they proceeded to dig out a very excellent old mastodon that at some remote time had been frozen in the deepest freeze in history.
If you ain't been up to see Grey Garden, you should go. The whole place is run by robots.